Welcome to Steward Leaders, a podcast for leaders who understand that our leadership is not about us. I'm Eric Alexander. In these conversations, we explore what it means to lead as stewards, living our leadership for something bigger than ourselves. Listeners, thanks for joining us today, and hello to you too as well. Drayton McLane Jr., Drayton McLane III. So grateful you've made time for a stewardship leadership conversation.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to have you here. We knew you well years ago, and it's good to reacquaint you and find out what you're doing on this spiritual program.
Well, thank you. Grateful for that.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Well, good.
Highlight of the week.
Good. Highlight of the week. Wow. I feel pretty special.
You are.
You're very kind. These two men are very kind. Let me tell you a little bit about where we intersected. I was CFO at a bank in Amarillo, Happy State Bank. They were on the board much of the time I was there at CFO, and I came to appreciate their character, their integrity, their business sense, and so just so grateful for them. I think a lot of them. Let me tell you a little bit about them. I won't have time to do a deep dive. Drayton Jr., chairman of the McLane Group, former CEO of the McLane Company, and the Houston Astros. In fact, back over your head, we've got a picture from a World Cup game, Astros game there, and also the McLane Company. We've got some trucks back there that I don't think I'm covering up too much. And then Drayton III, well, okay, I missed this. You sold the transportation company to Walmart.
Yes.
And then you were co-chair at Walmart for a period of time.
Yes.
And then
That's correct.
And now you've got your family of businesses here that y'all are managing out of your family office.
Mm-hmm.
And Drayton III, you're still on various bank boards, chairman of Dave Campbell's Texas Sports. You're involved in managing partner of Classic Foods, and I'm sure I'm leaving things out.
Correct. Yeah.
One of the things that is interesting is how these men serve too in various ways. And so I pulled some things out of their bios. There's a whole lot, so I'm just going to go with things that start with the letter B. And there's a lot of those. Both of these have a connection to Baylor University. You were at Baylor when my dad was there. I don't think y'all ever intersected, but y'all were there at the same time. You're involved at the Bush School of Government
Yes.
and Public Service there at Texas A&M. Both involved with Baylor Scott and White, the health system, Boy Scouts of America. See, I'm standing with the B's. Both involved at the Happy Bank, and you're also working on board with two other banks right now.
Correct.
And I love this one. You're not on this one, best I know, but Bluebell Creamery. I'm not sure whether to call that a really cool gig or a really sweet gig.
Yeah,
but that's pretty neat.
It's both.
It's both.
It's a tasty thing to be.
Tasty
Yes.
thing. Maybe in our break between episodes, we can you can get us some samples that we can fortify ourselves before part
I have
two.
to go home to get them, but I can do it.
So I'm grateful for these guys. And they exemplify stewardship leadership. And so I want to talk, we'll hope to do this in two parts. In this first part, talk about stewardship as it relates to business. And then we'll tag on a little bit at the end of that about stewardship and finance. And then we'll go to a different topic in another episode. So when I bring up the concept of stewardship, Drayton Jr., what comes to mind as it relates to business?
What really shaped me was my parents. I lived in a small town, Cameron, Texas, in the late 40s and 50s. I had two older sisters, but we had the best mother and father anyone could ever have. They were fine Christians. They were educated people. They had big ambitions for us, but they taught us integrity. We talked about that every day,
Right.
and for a long time I had no idea what all that meant.
Mm.
And they taught us values, and the best thing they taught us is they lived by those values. It wasn't just something they wanted us to have. The way they conducted their lives, I never heard my father say a curse word. I never heard my mother say anything like that. They went to church twice a day on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And my two sisters and I, we went to church, and they taught us that was an important part of our life and our Christian faith. That we all made professions of faith. When I was 7 years old. My sister did about that age. We went to church, came home. Our friends were going to the movies on Sunday afternoon, or they were going out and doing unusual things. We're not allowed to do that. We could go play with them,
Right.
but we couldn't go to movies or other entertainment. Sunday was a large day. And it didn't make a lot of sense to start with, but we learned as we grew and we matured. They taught us to observe our Christian faith, to practice our Christian faith, and they said, and it took a long time for me to totally understand it, we were influencing other people by the way we lived. And that was an important part of our life. My father, in his business, as I learned later, he said to all of our employees that the company, McLane Company, represented honesty, integrity, and high Christian principles. And I learned later, he learned that from his father. My grandfather started a business in 1894, and those were his Christian principles that he talked to. And in McLane Company today is a very large company. It has 26,000 employees. It's owned by Berkshire Hathaway, but the CEO and the values of honesty, integrity, and high Christian principle is talked about every day and how they do business. So if we have values, we can set examples, not only that helps us, but it helps other people live a richer life.
And so Drayton III, you're seeing that, okay, 4 generations, you're from generation 4, your boys are generation 5, not involved in the business yet, but you're seeing this from the next generation's perspective. What does that look like?
So you can see that it's been in place for so many years, and it's has a great track record. And see the people that work for the different McLane Company or the Astros or McLane Group, and see the people that work there and the reaction that they get, and your customers and vendors that they get, and then just people that the community that you know that are impressed with what's going on. So it's an easy thing to adapt for yourself and to practice too.
Could I make one more comment?
Certainly.
If
that's why we're here.
If you get, and I learned from my parents, and hopefully others have learned from us. In McLane Company, when we owned it, we had big grocery distribution centers around the country. Each one had 700 to 800 employees. And every 4 weeks, we had to have a meeting with all the employees, and the meeting couldn't be any larger than 35. That way you got dialogue.
Right.
And we started every meeting, the division president started every meeting, said the values of McLane Company are honesty, integrity, high Christian principle. And we said that time after time. I thought it was fun when I would go to a division and they'd start the meeting, and some employee might be a forklift driver, raise their hand and say, "Can I start the meeting today?"
Wow.
And they would jump up and say what it represented. And we said, hold us responsible for that. I thought it was important. I remember out in Merced, California, in a distribution center we had opened, and I was there when our president said that honesty, integrity, high Christian principle. He hopped up and said, "I'm Jewish and I'm offended." And so we talked to him several times separately and said, is there a better way to express values than Christian principles? You might be some other faith. I went back several weeks later, and he came to me and said, "I've been thinking about that, and I said that you're not trying to change my religion. You're trying to show me a standard."
Oh, that's powerful. Well, a couple of things stand out to me. First of all, the idea of the forklift driver saying, I want to say that
I want to do it.
He's embraced them. This is not just something imposed from
That you're lecturing.
It's pervading. That's powerful. And then also the idea that somebody of a different faith can still see this standard is powerful and relevant. And I have respect for, I'm presuming, I have respect for how y'all are reflecting that in how you do business. That's the powerful stories.
You are how you live. That's how people, we try to make strong impressions on people sometimes, but it's how we live our lives and how we express ourselves and how we treat other people is really how people see us.
That's right. It's interesting, you talked about integrity. If I'm remembering, integrity, honesty, high Christian principles, values. Where you started was the model in your home from your parents and how that affected you and your siblings, and then also how it showed up in the business. Well, part of integrity is that integrated nature of I'm the same person wherever I am. That I'm not putting on one mask here. I'm not living my private life one way and my work life a different way.
I heard our preacher several Sundays ago talk about he sees where we hurt our Christian faith is we live one way on Sunday and live a different way as we're living our lives. That we need to accept our faith, and it applies every day of our life.
That's powerful. So if I could, I'd like to, there's a scripture that's important to me that demonstrates that. It's Paul writing to Titus about how to be working in a church, and he gave instructions for Titus, tell different people groups to do different things. Then he gets down to the slaves, the bond servants, which would be like employees. And he says, employees, bond servants, do your work this way. I forget the exact list. Don't pilfer, don't backtalk, do your work with integrity, so that, Titus 2:9-10, so that by your work you can adorn the doctrine of God our Savior. By the way you do your work, cleaning up messes around the house, serving the meals, you can make the truth about Christ apparent and attractive. We can do that in our work. That sounds like what has been the standard in your family's business.
And you're inspiring other people. They might be on the edge, and this gets them to be a more productive human being.
People are watching every day.
Right, but people are watching.
See if you slip up, or if it's everything you're saying is just a bunch of words and not actions.
Right. Well, one thing that strikes me too is I think about stewardship. Part of it is we're keeping in mind long-term things of significance, long-term values, long-term things that have been entrusted to us. When we're waiting to get started, I was looking around the room, and back over here, you've got the McLane Ranch mission statement and values. Is the main McLane Ranch still a thing?
Yes, sir.
Still raising cattle? Okay, and I forget how it leads at the start, but it's very clear. It's a you're stewarding.
We're in for the long haul.
Yes.
Not for this year. Or the beef price is very good now, but we're getting the herd and the quality of the herd and treating the land. We're not overgrazing. That's what's in that too. You can overgraze the land and really set it backwards. So we're trying to make sure every year we get better.
So you don't want to abuse the land this year for today's gain,
Right.
And it
Because
sets you
the
up
price is high today.
and it sets you up for failure later.
You'll pay for it.
Right. Well, at some point, it's going to be a different generation that's managing it. You want to leave it in a good space for them.
I used to say to them, it's like maintenance on your car. If you don't get the oil changed and have checkups on your car, you're going to be away from home and it'll break down on you. The best thing you can do is invest in correct maintenance. So that's how you should treat any business or any person you have.
Any other stewardship aspects that come to mind as you think about what you've seen in your businesses through time, or how you're managing your businesses?
I think you've got to be careful under stress. It's awful easy to make the right, high ethical decisions when everything's going good, but when there's crisis or stuff you're dealing with and trying to make decisions, you have to do. I have on a card I write down on here my values, and if it's a complicated decision, I try to pull it out and say, boy, is our decision going to meet these values we represent? So it's easy to make great, courageous decisions when things are going good, but when there's difficulty, are you sure you're standing up for it too?
I've come to believe that sometimes those hard places where we make decisions, one of the things they do is they reveal what our real values are.
That's why you're one day on, unfortunately, you're one day on Sunday in a different way when you're in the marketplace.
And when we are true to our values, when we've got them in our pocket to serve as a reminder, have you worn that card out, by the way? That then you're holding yourself accountable to something other than yourself and bigger than yourself.
Well, that's what we said in those employee meetings. We said that about honesty, integrity, and high Christian principles, but hold us accountable. And if you see us have some practice that doesn't represent that, let us know. And they sure did.
It's interesting. Often when we hear about accountability, we think downstream, and
For somebody else.
that the boss is holding the employees accountable, but it's not always that way. We are accountable to other people in our ecosystems, and there you're asking the employees
Under stress.
to hold me accountable under stress. That's hard as a boss. Can I pivot and go a little bit different direction?
Absolutely, you're the boss.
I'm the boss. I'm the boss. Okay.
The accountants are always in charge.
I love
because
that.
they ultimately say that's not how that works. As you're trying to meet the budget requirements and you put the numbers up one way,
Yep.
and the accountant's supposed to stand up and say, that's not how that
That's
works.
not how that works. All right, stinking accountant, sit back down. Well, sometimes we have to just keep standing up. I noticed when I looked at your bios, both of you have, part of your background, some purchasing, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, generation separated, so there have been a lot of technological change through time, but one of the things that struck me about that is another back office function that's vital for an organization, especially the logistics transport organization and all the different things y'all do. That purchasing is a big deal. What's it like being a good steward in that back office function, like purchasing, like finance?
I think the first is to get, everybody talks about customers and treating customers fairly and overachieving, but we kind of have a philosophy of doing the same for your vendors. It's like the better that you treat those guys and ladies, that it'll help you in the long run too, as far as, instead of trying to stretch out what you owe as far as you can until, they come to collect on you, is to pay within your terms or take any discounts that you get and pay them as fast as possible, because as time goes on, that you'll be more of a trusted vendor, and there'll be better service, hopefully better pricing than others. And then also just to really research and find out who's really one of the good guys, or who's there just for a transaction, and to make the best deal they can off you and move on to the next person. We kind of want more relationships instead of transactions.
And you might pay a little more than somebody doing a fly-by-night
Correct.
could provide for you, but with the relationship, the trust that's created,
Especially when
it's
you
powerful.
something items that you might buy almost multiple times every day, instead of something that's once a week or once a month.
Anything you want to add on that, Drayton?
I just think it's important as business people and entrepreneurs, you want to get the best price. If you're buying something, you want the rock bottom price. And I've always felt you want to get the best price you can, but I'd always ask the person I'm dealing with, can you make a profit here? You want to get the best price you can, but you've done him a disservice if you squeeze him so bad and he needs your business and he sells it at that low price, he's losing money.
Right.
He's entitled, isn't that in the Bible also, that the labor is worthy of
So they're hiring.
their hire. And so I've often felt that someone he doesn't need to make an exorbitant profit, but he needs something to where he can succeed and be successful and be a good steward. So you certainly want the best price, but you want to be respectful in how you deal with people.
As I think about stewardship, so we talk about customers, we talk about the employees, talked about vendors. It's interesting how many different people groupings a business
Everybody
touches.
in any transaction, everybody needs to succeed. In the wholesale business, we wanted to buy the best price from the food manufacturers, but to be competitive, we had to get the best price. But he needed to be successful. Then we needed to make a profit. The retailer needed to make a profit, and then the consumer needed to buy it as good a value as he can get. So it's a shared responsibility in all the steps. Like borrowing money. You want to borrow it at the lowest possible interest rate. But the bank has to make money too, or they can't pay
That's right.
their stockholders and the people that are depositing money there.
Right.
It's most people don't see that. Well, boy, did I get a great price. But it's a chain of events in every business.
And being aware of how our actions affect people. I've been thinking also about a company affects its employees and indirectly affects its employees' families. What we do affects our communities, not just in the philanthropic things we do, but also the services we provide, how we're taking care of the families that work for us. And we, as businesses, we touch lots and lots of lives.
We have a lot of responsibility. Can I talk about a current event?
Yes.
Remember in second grade you had to talk about it, come to class
Current
and talk
event.
about a current event?
Did you bring a show and tell? It was going to be the ice cream, but you did. Okay.
I'll come up with something.
We'll do current events.
The best current event is Spirit Airline went
yes.
bankrupt over the weekend, and they had literally a couple of 100,000 people that were at some destination, and they were stranded. They had already paid for their return fare. They're not going to get reimbursed anytime soon. How are they going to get home? And so somehow it got so competitive, and the price of fuel went up so high, it put this really low-cost airline totally out of business. Look at the thousands of people that work for Spirit Airline don't have a job today.
Right.
Look at the people they've stranded literally all over the United States, and how terrible. We should have allowed them to have made a profit somewhere along the way when fuel price went up. So
That's really
everybody
tough.
suffers.
Everybody's suffering. That's tough.
Don't you really feel sorry for those thousands of people that
Yes.
they're in Hawaii or they're in Palm Springs or somewhere else stranded, or in Amarillo? Did it fly to Amarillo?
There are worse places to be stranded. I mean, Hawaii, Palm Springs, Amarillo.
But if you have a limited amount of money and the
Right.
hotels are going, said, hey, I got to come back and stay in the hotel. How am I going to pay for this?
Well, and
I didn't budget for
who's
this.
going to take me home?
Yeah.
And then I wonder if other airlines are saying, hey, we've got a goodwill opportunity. Can we give you a discounted flight or a free
But
flight?
most
Go
of
ahead and
them
get
are
home.
pretty full all the time, too.
Right.
I hadn't been in
We'll make you
many.
pay
I haven't
for it.
been on many with much capacity.
Right.
Right. That's
So it's a
interesting.
current event right now, a responsibility. Everybody's got to succeed.
Speaking of everybody succeeding, I want to pivot a little bit too and talk about finance. It's part of the organization succeeding. How do you see the finance role from the roles you've set in on boards or running companies? Where does finance fit into the whole stewardship equation of our business? Well,
That's got the maybe the most highest set of standards besides from the leader. That there's all the GAP principles that everybody operates from the same standards. And so that's that person's role is to make sure that what's being done is in a compliance
right.
with everything, the standards, and that might even, depending on where you work, that might even involve slowing down the leaders that may outrank you or that you report to.
Which is never easy.
Yes.
Have you guys ever had somebody in finance say, hey, Drayton, wait a minute. We need to slow down on that?
In McLane Company, it was a big business, a lot of employees, big distribution centers around the United States. And we had a person, his name was Sandy Sanford. He had a CPA in finance. Sandy didn't get into the details. He was a big picture guy. And we borrowed money from big banks, and we had loans that had elaborate covenant agreements, and you had to manage that every quarter. And Sandy was really, really good. If somebody said, well, let's cut the price and do this, and Sandy said, hey, we got covenants. And I remember several times in meeting, many times, where we might have been off target. And Sandy would say, if you all don't quit talking about doing that, I'm going to pull off all my clothes and run around the room. So that was a threat we didn't want.
Whoa.
But he was very dramatic. Drayton knew him, and that he was very dramatic. And it wasn't the culture as much as the financial stability of McLane. He was masterful at that. And he understood every detail of accounting. And he knew what our covenants were. He knew what our cash flow was. And he was masterful at that. I teased him in time. I said, Sandy, if you ever figured out what we were doing, you'd really be good at this. But he was a great accountant, a strategist, and he knew if we were going to do something that affected the cash flow.
That's good. What about the businesses you're involved in right now, Drayton III?
Yeah, we have a good, strong, each different company has its own senior staff, and so each of the different places I can think of, Dave Campbell's after 10 years we did a lot of the finance here at this office. It was a small company, but they've grown enough to where they have their own highly qualified called a controller, financial controller, and everybody has, that's in the interviews, the standards and experience that they had. And have you been able to say, or had to say no, or to slow down,
Right.
or all of the above at other places where you worked, or you just get carried along with whatever? And so we found people that are very good at saying, hang on a second.
Hang on a second.
Think it over. If you do something, spend money over here or something, it's going to unravel what we're doing on another side of the business.
And it's not that the accountant's always right. Sometimes the accountant needs to hear the other perspectives too.
They're too cautious.
But the voice needs to be in the conversation, and inviting people to the table who are willing to say no when they need to, or at least propose a no when they need to. That's I think that goes back to that accountability you were talking about earlier. We as leaders need people around us who will help us walk out those values.
And the CEO or the strong personality doesn't need to intimidate the accounting side of the business. In McLane Company, I always try to compare things. I would say because we had our marketing people, and we had our operational people, and they were wanting to get everything good or go out and get a big account or build a new distribution center. And our finance people, Sandy Sanford and that, and I said, picture a NFL football game if there were no referees. Or I said, picture a Major League Baseball game and the batter got to call the balls and strikes. That he would call them all balls instead of strikes. We need discipline.
Right.
We need discipline. And I always viewed the accounting and the top CFO leader would hold people accountable and saying, here's what I think you all are not looking at. They're as critical as the operational side. Somebody's got to raise the red flag.
That's right. There's lots here for all of us steward leaders to be thinking about. Anything else? I think we'll wind this part up. Anything either of you want to say before we put a lid on this one?
I think just adding that it's I guess something we've always talked about, but now had you described it and with the book you got coming out, it's the first time I've seen somebody who's kind of put it in words, or either by video or book or whatever, of the standard or the calling that you're doing for
Good. Thank you.
for this role.
Thank you. I believe in it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we congratulate you in the book. We need to put it down. It's just like in our Christian faith, put the role the Bible plays. That's the foundation of who we are. And in a business, the value of the business is who you are. And that's businesses that have been there for a long period of time. They have a great foundation. They respect their employees. They respect the customer they're dealing with, the vendors they're dealing with, and their stockholders. Everybody's got to win. Can't just be one or two.
That's good. All right. Well, Drayton and Drayton, thanks again for taking time for today's conversation.
This is fun.
It is fun. Appreciate that.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to Steward Leaders. If this conversation was helpful, you can find more episodes and additional resources at stewardleaderspodcast.com. Leadership is temporary. Stewardship is about forever.